Good evening, everyone. I trust you all are doing great, and I welcome you all to the Shipsy Masterclass today on route optimization. We are all really excited to join. We are all really excited for you to join us this informative session. And for those of you just joining in, please settle down. So we'll start. Maybe Rishabh, you can present the screen. Great. Thanks, Rishabh. Okay. Cool. Okay, so guys, in this quarter, what we did was we recently conducted a survey with over 300 plus companies across different industries and different geographies. And we noticed that over 70% of the businesses identified unpredictable delivery times, higher last mile delivery costs, and underutilization of their fleet as some of the most critical challenges they faced, which were hampering their growth and overall customer experience in 2024. But in addition to these, based on our regular interaction with the existing customers and meet up with industry folks, we identified four major challenges faced by businesses who rely on manual routing solution. So first one is that delayed deliveries. By delayed deliveries, what I mean is that manual planning often misses out on a lot of constraints related to fleet, related to road conditions, related to weather conditions, 3PL partners, etc. And thus it leads to unexpected delays in the last mile delivery and does a poor customer experience. So moving on to poor customer experience, apart from delayed deliveries, another problem with the customer experience these days is that customers in 2024 expect deliveries really fast, thanks to the standards which are set by quick commerce companies. So at the same time, they also expect a real-time update, tracking, and intimation if there are any sort of delays which are about to happen. So lack of a technology solution here may lead to a lot of misses and ultimately unsatisfied customers. Next, we move on to high cost of human resources. So traditional routing methods actually require manual intervention at almost every step, be it mapping suitable vehicles and drivers, be it tracking deliveries in real time, and be it addressing customer queries on call. This involvement of human resources does add to an increase in the overall delivery cost tremendously. And lastly, higher fuel cost. So by higher fuel cost, what I mean is that manually done or poorly done routing sometimes leads to an increase in the delivery miles to a lot of extent in some certain cases, thus increasing your overall fuel cost in addition to other resource costs. So if these are some of the challenges which resonate with you as well, by the end of today's masterclass, I'm pretty sure that you will have a solution at your disposal. So hello, my name is Zarpit and I'll be your host this evening. Today's topic is optimize your routes, optimize your business, a deep dive into route optimization. The insightful session will be presented by Rishabh Verma, who is a solution consultant at Shipsy. So before I hand it over to Rishabh, here's a quick poll we would like to present. Yeah. So here's the poll. This poll talks about what metrics are most important to your operations, your business. Maybe we'll spare a minute for you all guys to fill in. Okay, increase in on-time deliveries, reduce total transportation costs. Okay, on-time deliveries. Okay, 6 out of 8. As of now, like on-time deliveries, 6 out of 9 people. Reduce total transportation cost, 4. Okay. Oh, got it. Great. So So majority of people have identified as on-time deliveries as one of their primary metric which they want to track, and apart from that, they're reducing the overall transportation cost. Very well. So I see how important these metrics are for you and the businesses like yours. And here are the results based on the survey we conducted. So remember, as I mentioned, the survey we did had responses from about 300 plus companies. And here are the benefits these companies were actually able to reap out from a route optimization solution. So first one is a 25% increase in the deliveries per vehicle. So they were able to increase the number of deliveries per vehicle by approximately 25%. Next is 13% increase in on-time deliveries. So their on-time deliveries number when it was initially pretty low, and they were able to get a benefit from the route optimization, a whopping increase of like 13% in the on-time deliveries, adding to a lot much better customer experience and much better much reduction in their cost as well. Next is the 12% reduction in the overall transportation cost, which definitely comes with your fuel cost going down, your resources, human resources cost going down, and ultimately leading to 12% reduction in the total transportation cost. And lastly, 31% increase in the vehicle capacity utilization. So with the route optimization solution, as Rishabh will also present in the demo, you can actually set certain constraints which can actually increase your the utilization, overall utilization of your vehicle. So now Rishabh will guide us through the topic and solution in depth today, and how it can help you optimize your routes and save big time on your delivery cost. We'll also have a dedicated Q&A session towards the end. So feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A window throughout your presentation. So without further ado, let's hand it over to Rishabh. Rishabh, the floor is all yours.
Hey, hi everyone. Thanks, Arpit, for the so today we'll be going through the demonstration, right? The route optimization and allocation in the list. What I'll do, let's first understand the flow that we are doing today, right? So whenever we are talking about any last mile, so a general flow that happen, right, is the orders would be placed, would be into your system, and those orders would be transferred to our system. We integrate with a lot of OMS, RPs, all sorts of different enterprise systems. We are integrated with them. There are multiple ways of pushing orders into our system. Once those orders pushed into our allocation and optimization engines run based on the parameters and the script time that we decide upon based on the operational requirements, right? We automatically run the scripts on time. We are built optimally feed routes, plans, and ensure weight and volume utilization, so on and so forth, right? Once that is done, the orders is received in the driver app, and the live tracking is sent to the customer, right? Because as earlier mentioned, as I'm looking at the poll results, SLA is the most important about the process and the overall logistics industry in the current scenario, right? So that is where it comes into the picture, right? And then the entire trip execution play where we collect the proof of delivery, the entire process, cash reconciliation, and analytics, so on and so forth, right? This is just the gist of modules that we'll be looking at, or we'll be talking about today, primarily focusing on the route optimization, right? So what I'll do, let's what we'll do is I think it's time for one of our questions as well, a poll question, and then let's move it. How many orders do you ship on a daily basis? Because whenever we are talking about the route optimization, one of the critical aspects is login, and how quickly can we plan with those orders, right? And this is where a lot of time is utilized by a lot of planning teams, right? And that is where we reduce time. And the more number of orders, the more complex the business, the more the business is able to save using the optimization algorithm platform, right? Yeah, great. A lot of orders coming in between, a lot of 1,000 to 500 orders here. Great. So yeah, we'll see how it acts, and let's see. So got the consensus, right? It's primarily a majority between 1,000 to 5,000, and then 5,000 to 10,000, and some less than 1,000, right? Understood. So now what we'll be doing is we'll be diving deep into the platform. We'll be looking at the demonstration, right? So this right now on your screen is the Shipsy platform, right? So this is the platform that will be utilized by, let's say, a person from your team The person can be from, let's say, the finance team, from the operations team, can be allocated to a particular region, right? Or can be allocated to a particular warehouse or hub, right? So the idea is it is completely on the basis of role-based access, right? Whoever is associated to a particular role or a particular module would be able to view and interact with that particular module so that they are that, right? And we are also able to ensure that relevant information is being shared with relevant people, right? So you can see there are different buckets, all unplanned, planned, in transit, so on and so forth. The idea is of an order from its conception, right? Pick up to its delivery. When the order comes into our system, it's planned, it moves from one bucket to the other until it is successfully delivered, or if the delivery is a failed delivery, right? So right now you can see there are certain orders in my planned bucket. They can come in multiple ways, as we have discussed. One of the ways is we directly integrate with a lot of ERP systems, right? OMS systems, and the orders directly come from there. The other way is Shipsy is an API first platform. So a lot of orders can be pushed in using the APIs, right? We have open APIs and orders can be created using that. The third way is simply going to the platform and adding consignments in the form of an Excel sheet, right? Same like that, we are able to cater to all sorts of customers. And then there are different applications, there are different customer sellers. Now, once the orders are into the systems that we are calling consignments right now, right, that are going to be moved from one location to the other, we'll be looking at the last mile delivery for the Delhi warehouse that we have, right? So what I'll do, I'll go here. So there are different ways of creating a route. One is the custom trip method, where this is a fail-safe mechanism to ensure that you are able to create a route if you want to manually create it, right? You can select a rider and create a route. But what is interesting and what all of our customers use is create route methodology. So what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll click on the create route button, I'll select all. The business doesn't need to do this because at 10 a.m., let's say in the morning, whenever the cutoff time is decided, let's say 8 p.m. at the night or every 2 hours, right? We have to dispatch the orders. So the planning will be done accordingly and the script will run automatically, right? Right now I'm doing it, I'm going here and I'm clicking on the create route button. So while I'm doing this, what all is happening, right? Again, a very, very important aspect when we are talking about route optimization. When we do this, what all I'll do, we'll go to the trip manager trips that have been created, right? And have been allocated to different riders. Now, what we'll do, first of all, how have these trips been created, right? So let's move into the overall methodology of how the route optimization overall is done. I'll quickly take you to the next slide here, right? This is where we'll be talking about the optimization. So what are we trying to achieve? What we're trying to achieve is we are trying to ensure that we get, proper vehicle utilization, proper volume utilization that is enabled. Now this significantly helps us when we are talking in terms of full truckload increase, right? We want to increase the load that moves using the full truckload and try to reduce as much as LTL movement as possible, right? So this significantly helps us increase the overall vehicle utilization, right? And this is where it comes into play. Let me change my Wi-Fi. I guess my Wi-Fi is a little yeah. I hope I'm audible now. I hope it's better now. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
it's better.
It's better. Okay, great. So what I was talking about primarily is that when we are so what we did till now, we had certain orders, right? We went there, we clicked on create route, and we have these routes created, right? We have these trips which are already created. We'll look at the trips once, and then we'll talk about the route optimization, how the optimization takes place, right? So just by click of the button, we get different routes that are created based on the orders that have come in and the constraints that we have defined, right? And we'll be talking about the constraints and the optimizer now, all right? So yeah, so this is where we'll be going to. I'll again share my screen, right? Share the slide. So what we are trying to do, why are we doing this, right? So the key question is why the optimizer is so useful and so prominently used. So first thing is to completely utilize the vehicles, right? To ensure that we are able to completely utilize the vehicle, we are trying to achieve maximum capacity utilization of vehicle. When I'm talking about the capacity utilization, I'm talking about the weight and volume utilization for each vehicle. So that is the idea. So that we are trying to get maximum amount of FTL movements and as less LTL movements as possible, right? The second thing is trying to optimize the fuel that is consumed during a delivery, right? How this happens is this primarily happens based on the route that is created, right? The most optimal route that is created, the shortest distance from point A to point B. And there can be multiple complexities within that as well. So we are trying to reduce the fuel as well. Then what comes in is the overall time reduction, right? The time that is utilized when we are planning for the orders. When there are thousands of SKUs, right? When we are talking about the automotive industry where there are 32,000, 35,000 SKUs that needs to be planned, it takes a lot of time to do that. We reduce that manual planning time. It happens in the background within a few seconds. And then the last but not the least is, and the most important, I would say, meeting the customer expectations, right? So we have a defined SLA, we have a defined delivery slot, and we want to ensure that the customer is completely satisfied. We are able to deliver within the promised delivery slots, and we do not breach any ETAs. And that is what we have successfully achieved over the past, right? To be able to get the most optimal output based on this. Now this is happening, correct? But how is this happening? How are the routes being created? How we are able to optimally achieve all of these the parameters that we mentioned, right? So there are, whenever any optimization algorithm runs, there are different parameters that are considered when optimizing for a given route, right? For a given dispatch, right? So one is order related parameters, right? Whenever order is coming into my system, I know the weight of the order, the volume of the order, the number of orders, so on and so forth, right? All the characteristics associated with that particular order. Maybe it is a briefer order. It needs to go in a cold supply chain. So all these parameters comes in with the order. I know the order level constraints, the order level parameters. Then what comes into play is the medium by which it is going, right? Let's say a truck. I know the volume of the truck. I know the capacity constraints of the truck, right? The weight of the truck, the volume, the number of consignments that can come into that particular truck, the cost associated to that truck, right? The per kilometer cost per se. All those parameters I have, right? Then there can be different methodologies that would be used. There can be distance minimization, cost minimization, right? Asset count minimization, maybe the number of trucks that I require. I want to minimize that overall. There can be different operational models as well. Someone can be utilizing the milk run. In a lot of industries, milk run is a very common practice, right? We have static routes, we follow those routes, and we ensure that in a B2B scenarios specifically, it really helps a lot when we are doing that, and we try to optimize that as well. There can be hub and spoke related model. There can be different methodologies that would be utilized by different organizations and industries that are working with us, right? And based on this, we are able to achieve the most optimal routes. We are able to identify the right type of vehicle that we need to cater to. We are able to identify the sequence in which the deliveries need to be made. Now, this again helps us to minimize the overall damage during the loading process, right? Because we follow the LIFO methodology, last in, first out, and we load the vehicles in that manner. So that now it significantly reduces two things, right? One is the overall damage that I mentioned. The other thing is the service time, the time that it takes to load or unload the vehicle at a particular delivery or pickup time. It significantly helps with regards to that. So yeah, these are the parameters based on which we are able to significantly reduce the overall cost. Now I'll quickly jump into the demo, and I would like to show a couple of screens. Then post that we'll have another poll question with regards to this, right? So this is the optimization screen. Let's say we call it routing playground, right? Why do we call it routing playground? Because you can come here, you can put in your parameters, you can put in your configurations, and you are able to test it out, right? How will my supply chain work out if I have these many vehicles, if I have these many consignments, and if I put in these parameters, how will it come out? So let's start looking at this. All the configurations that we are talking about can be done at a warehouse level, because what we understand is that different warehouses would have different characteristics altogether, right? They would have different ways of operation. That this significantly happens in a lot of industries, right? These days, especially. This is the need of the hour. And all the optimization works at the warehouse level. We go to that granularity, right? Then there are different algorithms that are behind the scene working, which would consider all the constraints that we are talking about and get us the most optimal route and load optimization. Right. So you can see there is this particular extreme local search route tailoring engine. This is again a heuristics algorithm that significantly reduces the overall cost that is associated with transportation, specifically fuel costs, because this algorithm is able to create the most optimal routes. Right. Then we have Shipsy's clustering algorithm. We have Google OR tools as well, right? And Shipsy's advanced. Now there are a lot of algorithms existing, right? We are talking about Google algorithms. There are different Amazon algorithms. There are a lot of algorithms when we are talking about which exist in the market. When we are talking about a lot of context in different geographies, what really important is how we are able to pre-process the data. A lot of data would come in, a lot of addresses would come in, which would require a lot of pre-processing, right? We need to get the right latitude and longitude based on which the algorithms would run and give us the most optimal route and overall view, right? So that is where Shipsy's proprietary algorithms helps us a lot, where there is another layer which helps us to get the most to get better results because we are able to pre-process and guess the most optimal latitudes and longitudes, and based on that the entire processing happens, right? um, when we are talking about different constraints, right, you can have different range related constraints where the driver would start. So there are a lot of scenarios where the driver would not need to come to a warehouse. The driver may start from their own home location. We could ensure that, right? The driver may end at a warehouse or may end at their home location, right? So we ensure that whenever we are assigning the orders, we are assigning with regards to the comfort of the organization and comfort of the driver as well, so that we are able to completely get the maximum benefit out of the overall operational implementation, right? So this is where the overall routing playground comes in, and it helps us a lot with regards to these parameters, right? There are hundreds of parameters that can be configured, and each are explained with regards to the I button that you see next to them. Um, yeah. And when we are talking about the optimization, another important aspect is the allocation, right? So within the optimization, there is task allocation. So how the optimization would happen, what would the pickup service time, the delivery service time, when we are talking about the service time, this is the time it takes to deliver a particular order when you have entered that location, the time it takes to pick up a order when we have entered that location, right? The maximum cash that the rider can carry with them, so on and so forth. So there are a lot of configurations that go on behind that, the time windows, the geocoding. There are a lot of configurations that go in behind that. For example, if a rider has gone out of the geofence area for a significant amount of time, for a given period of time, we need to check it out, right? Because we cannot assign the order to them. We look at the real-time location of the order. We look at the real-time location of the driver, and we look at the location from where it has to be picked up and where it has to be delivered. And based on that, and also the SLAs and other parameters that we consider, and based on that, it is allocated to a particular driver, let's say, right? And then you can define different priorities. Let's say within 500 meters, I want to assign it to a cycle, right? Bicycle. Within one kilometer, I want to assign it to a motorbike. Within 2 kilometers, I want to assign to a car, right? So those sort of configurations can already be there and much needed, right? Especially when we are moving towards a world where there are different mediums of transportation, including electric vehicles, so on and so forth, right? Similarly, there are different bases of allocation when we are talking about the distance, the pickup distance, maximum aerial distance between the origin and destination, how to club the orders, what should be the distance between the delivery or the destination when we are talking about multiple deliveries, right? What should be the distance between two delivery points so that I can club it, right? Are they aligning on a common polyline? How much time should I wait at the store before I pick up, club the orders and deliver them, right? So there are a lot of different parameters that go into configuration. And the best part is everything is available in the front end, is available in the user interface itself and can be configured very easily from the UI itself. Now, since we have talked about the optimization, I think it is the time for a poll, and then we can post that, we can move towards the allocation aspects. Yeah. So now, when we are talking about the deliveries, when we are talking about the last mile deliveries, some businesses have their own fleet. They have their own riders who are making these deliveries, right? But a lot of businesses in the current world have a lot of carrier partners associated to them, right? For making these particular deliveries. How do we manage those, right? That is a critical question. How are we able to manage the carrier partners with the self fleet or the courier partners themselves? how we are able to completely utilize them to allocate the orders to the right courier partner or the right fleet, right driver at the right point in time. And that is what we'll be looking at next, right? Okay, amazing. So I can see less than 44% people, 5 to 10, 3 people, and then 10 to 22 people. Great, great. Um, Glad to see that. So what I'll do next, we'll be moving towards the allocation aspect, right? So moving to the next slide. Now, right now I'm explaining the optimization and allocation in a separate zone, but look at it as a single form factor where the optimization and allocation is happening together in a synergy, right? So what is happening once the optimization is working, we also need to identify the right vendor who can make this delivery possible. Right now, there can be dedicated delivery partners who are dedicated to your business, who are dedicated to your warehouses, right? There can be floating fleets, there can be dedicated fleets who are working for your specific warehouses or catering to multiple warehouses for your business. Then there can be a lot of third-party fleets, right, who would be delivering on your behalf, right? How do we cater to them? So the idea is we know which delivery partners we have. So everyone has a contract with the delivery partners, right? To where the delivery has to be made, from where the delivery would be done. So let's talk about a couple of master data that is considered, right? One is serviceability. Which courier partners, which transporter services to which particular lane, let's say pin code mapping, right? City to city mapping, so on and so forth. We have that. Then we have lane level pricing, right? There can be per kilometer pricing as well. There can be lane level pricing as well. There can be different ways of defining prices. Let's talk about the lane level pricing. We have that information as well, right? Then we have the vehicle level information about the transporters as well, based on which we'll be doing the optimization and trying to increase the number of FTL movement as much as possible. So once we have all this information, it is all going to the optimizer and allocation engine. And we are trying, what we are getting is the optimal mix of FTL and LTL movement with maximum FTL movement and as less LTL movement as possible. Why? Because FTL is much cheaper as compared to LTL when we are talking about the overall movement, right? Then the ideal vehicle mix selection. Do I need a 32 feet vehicle, MXL vehicle? Do I need a 19 feet truck? Our optimization engine identifies which is the most optimal mix of vehicles for that batch before the cutoff time, right? That needs to be allocated to the defined trip route, the trip or the route that different consignments need to take, or different vehicles need to take in a given sequence of consignment delivery. We define those routes as well. Again, significantly helps in the loading and unloading process because we know the sequence and we are able to mitigate a lot of risk with regards to that. Now, again, we give a lot of options. We also give the options for the driver to resequence those post the trip has been created. Depends on the business requirement, right? Completely. Right. So let's see how are these parameters defined in our system. Right. So I'll quickly show you the task allocation engine. Right. Let me show you carrier partner. So there are hundreds of rules. So this is the carrier allocation engine. Let me go ahead. Let me create a rule. So what you can do, so first of all, what is this particular engine that we are talking about, right? So when we are talking about carrier allocation engine, we want to define mathematical rules or logical rules based on which the order which is coming into our system would be allocated to a defined courier partner, to a defined dedicated vehicle, so on and so forth, right? There has to be a logic based on which everything runs. Although we are considering a lot of inputs when we are talking about the overall movement, we are considering, let's say, the vehicle level constraints, order level constraints, courier partner level constraints, right? The serviceability, the cost of a particular courier on a particular lane for a particular vehicle, right? But everything has to come in a common place. There should be a logic behind it, and then we should get an output for that, right? This is the place where we define logic using the user interface itself, right? There are hundreds of parameters that go on behind creating a logic. We can select from these different parameters. Let's create a rule, right? Let's say I want to create a rule where the origin city is let's go ahead and select a particular city from where we want the pickup to happen. right? Let's say I want from Bangalore the pickup to happen. Let's say I also want on the basis of Chennai. Let's select two cities, right? Save. Now we can also create complex scenarios, right? I'll go here, I'll click on edit, and let's also select the destination city. So what will happen is that I'm creating OD pair, origin destination pair, based on which my allocation engine will work. Let's select a couple of destination cities as well. Let's say to Akola and Amroha and Agra. I want the deliveries to happen. These are my destination cities. So you can see there is an and symbol here. So we are making a complex use case or a complex rule to ensure that we are catering to whatever requirements that we have. And then as you have seen, there are hundreds of parameters based on weight, based on SKUs, based on product type, business types, business names, so on and so forth. We can create complex functions, right? Then why to restrict only to that, right? On this particular route, I only want to select these two transporters or these three transporters, right? I don't want any other transporter to work on these particular routes. We can select all transporters as well, but let's say we define these three transporters that I want to work on this particular route, right? Then we can create additional parameters as well. For example, when we are talking about parameters, a very important aspect here, there are static parameters and then there are dynamic parameters. Dynamic parameters work on the basis of historization, based on the historical data, right? Right now, let's talk about the static parameters. I'll talk about the dynamic parameter as well. Let's say wherever the promised turnaround time is less than or greater than, however, is less than 4 days, I want to allocate on basis of that. And the second parameter is that the percentage of orders delivered successfully for a historization of 4 weeks is greater than 97%. I only want to assign to those carriers. So although we have defined carriers, we'll filter them out even further. And that is what we are trying to do here. I'll create this rule, I'll save it. And I can create even further rules if required, right? Plus, plus, and so on and so forth. And we'll keep on going with regards to that. I'll go here. I'll even create a sorting segment, right? Now what is a sorting segment, right? So first is in all the businesses, a very important aspect is you define L1, L2, L3 transporters. This is my first priority. Then this is my second priority, and this is my third priority, so on and so forth. And this significantly helps us with regards to setting up those particular rules. But for simplicity, let's say I want the cheapest transporter, right? And I'll save. So what will happen? I'm selecting the cheapest transporter, or I want the fastest one, right? I'll save this rule as well. So what happens? So when the order comes in, when the optimization and allocation happens, this particular script runs, then what is the output that I'm getting? Again, a very important aspect, right? So what I'm getting in an output is a priority list of transporters, right? Where the first transporter would be first utilized completely. All the vehicles of that transporter would be first utilized, would be allocated to, will be optimized before I move to the second transporter and then to the third transporter, so on and so forth, because there are possibilities that a transporter may not respond to your request, right? Or may reject your request. Then it requires to be sent to the L2 transporter or the second favorite transporter or the second transporter in the priority list, so on and so forth. So that is why when this particular allocation engine runs with the optimizer, we are able to get the proper list of the transporter that needs to be catered to, right? And based on this list that is created, and based on the allocation that is done, we are able to send those particular transporters, those particular dedicated vehicles, an intent, and then the overall journey starts. The overall idea is to gain the maximum out of the overall utilization or the optimization that we are doing. And we can set in different constraints as we have already discussed. We can define how we can, define an FTL movement. We can define an LTL movement. Let's say I want minimum capacity utilization of 80%, and anything less than that would be moved to the LTL move site, and anything more than that would be converted into an FTL and would go on for that particular delivery route, right? And that is where the overall optimization algorithms comes in. They kick into the picture, and we are able to mitigate any additional cost that the customer is facing for any additional vehicles that are there, any additional fuel cost because of longer trips, so on and so forth. And they can also compare the actual and planned deliveries that had happened, whether the transporters have actually followed those or not. And in our extensive analytics module, we can also cater to those sorts of requests as well. Right. So that was the overall idea for the route optimization and analytics. Now, quickly talking about the one of the use cases, right? One of a very important use cases of a pharmaceutical company. So when we are talking about a pharmaceutical company in India, let's look at the type of operations that they do. A pharmaceutical company would be doing the diagnostics as well. A lot of pharmaceutical companies in our country, and when I'm talking about this particular company, they are doing diagnostics as well. They would come to your home, they would take your blood sample, and then they'll be delivering it to a lab where the delivery would be happening, right? So this is the one movement that we are talking about. The second movement that we will be talking about, operational movement, is replenishment of their stores. They would have a central warehouse from where the replenishment would be happening to their different stores that they have throughout the city, right? Because they also cater to those particular stores. The third type of movement that we are talking about is the delivery to the end customer. Now you can see that all the leading pharmaceutical companies deliver you within 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes SLAs, right? And this is a third sort of movement that is happening whenever we are talking about any pharmaceutical company in India. Now, what happens? Some of these fleets usually are outsourced. For example, the person who collects your blood is specialized in doing that, and that's a different fleet altogether, right? And pharmaceutical companies don't directly own them, or they are not directly on their payroll, right? So based on that, there are different verticals, as we have discussed, 3 different operational verticals, and they have their own fleets. And this is a big problem, right? When you have different fleets, you are dedicated to that particular business vertical, and you are spending much more resources on that particular business vertical than required, right? You are not optimally utilizing your fleet. And this is where we came in. And what we were able to do, we were able to reduce their fleet by around 25%, right? So they were using a larger number of people in their organization overall. There were different verticals, and we were able to cumulatively bring it down by 25%, right? Again, a significant reduction. What was happening, right? The person who was doing diagnostic, or when once it was collected from the customer, the blood samples were collected to the customer, were brought to us common point. From there, the movement was happening to the final diagnostic center. And when that movement is happening, let's say that SLA is 4 hours, the driver was also able to deliver the customer orders in between. They were able to go pick up the customer order and deliver within their route. So what we were able to do, we were able to make a common fleet of driver from different verticals altogether. And this significantly helped us to have much more streamlined operation, because the same people were able to do multiple jobs and were much better utilized. Again, a key aspect that comes in here is the overall throughput of the drivers. The throughput of the drivers significantly increased. They were able to deliver and pick up more number of orders altogether as compared to what they were able to do previously when they were catering to a particular vertical altogether. Right. So that changed. There were a lot of long delivery times in comparison to global standards, right? 4-hour SLAs, 5-hour SLAs, and they were breaching it a lot of time. We were able to significantly reduce that, and we were able to most optimally utilize their fleet and ensure that there are no SLA breaches. Right? There was no digital solution before that. Everything was manually planned. And as the orders were coming in, they were being assigned to a particular dispatcher, and the delivery was happening. They were not having any dynamic ETAs that was being sent to the customer. There was no communication that was being established, and there was no certainty within which time the delivery would be made. So what a usual communication would go is that the order would be delivered between 2 to 6 p.m., right? Which creates a lot of difficulty for the end customer, because a lot of time you would want to know actually around what time the order would be delivered. You would want a smaller window, let's say 30 minutes, 20 minutes, or exact time. And that's what we were able to achieve. They didn't have any technology for automation, and everything was manual. A lot of manual hours were going in the overall planning, allocation, and the overall technology process that they were feeling. The overall operations were manual, right? And yeah, they were having separate fleets that we were able to bring to a common fleet. Now, what happened? The overall reduction of 20% in average delivery time, right? So the time promised to the customer for the delivery was significantly reduced, because whenever the orders were coming in, we didn't need to wait for the trip to be created, to be assigned. As soon as the orders were coming in, they were being pushed to an existing trip, right? And the driver was able to pick up and deliver within that particular trip as well. Right? So we were able to significantly delay to reduce the overall delivery time, the pickup time, so on and so forth, by merging the fleets or merging the orders, the B2B, B2C orders. There was again 25% reduction in overall delivery fleet. There was 37% reduction in the order clubbing. Now everything was possible because we were able to club the orders. Right? We knew how many orders, how many volumetric orders, weight-wise order, number of orders a rider can carry over a bike, right? And we are on the basis of that, we are able to club the right number of orders on the basis of the polyline, or as we are talking in the region where the delivery was to be made, we are able to club on the basis of that, and we were able to significantly reduce the number of different trips that we needed to create, and everything was clubbed. And yeah, 37.5% increase in the order clubbing. We were able to increase the SLA adherence by 10%. Again, a big impact when we are talking about last mile delivery and customer satisfaction, right? We discussed major problems and major focus points, and it was the on-time delivery, right? And we were able to ensure that it was significantly increased because of following this particular methodology, because there was no latency in pickup and delivery schedules creation, right? And again, they were able to use customized dashboard, for intent creation and incident tracking, so on and so forth. Because another important aspect is when the delivery is happening, there can be exceptional scenarios that can happen, right? And those need to be catered to if you want the SLA to happen. A lot of times, what happens is whenever I try to order from a food delivery application, right? What happens is that there would be exceptional scenarios, and I would not be able to get my order on time. And this is where these incidents are automatically tracked. Notification is triggered to the respective stakeholders, and we are able to get even further increase in the SLA adherence overall. Right. So this was primarily about the case study that I wanted to discuss, and I think we have completed the major aspects of our demonstration today. Any question would be welcome.
Thanks, Rishabh. Thanks a lot for such valuable insights and detailed demo and walking us through the case study as well. So, team, before we proceed further with the Q&A session, I request that everyone take a moment to fill up this poll question on your screen. Maybe we'll spare a minute for this. And meanwhile, please feel free to submit any questions you have using the Q&A box, and we will be picking up each and every question one by one, and we'll be answering. Okay, sure. So let's proceed further. And here's a QR code. You can scan this to book a demo. And if there are any queries, any specific to your operations or related to that, you can send us your queries at rishabh.verma@shipsy.io or arpit.purohit@shipsy.io. So these are our email IDs. So yeah, we can take up the Q&A session now. Rishabh, there are certain questions there are two questions as of now in the Q&A box. Maybe you can start taking from the first one. The first one is by Rohit Ranjan.
Absolutely, Arpit. Yeah. Can you please let me know the question?
Yeah, sure.
Apologies, I'm not able to see the question. Yeah.
No problem. So Rishabh, Rohit is asking that probably But if Shipsy's system for orders are integrated with the manufacturer or seller's order system or not, and he says that NDA or an agreement for data confidentiality is also done. So he just want to confirm, is he right about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, whenever we are talking about the integrations, so integrations are done with all the respective parties that are there, right? So we have different modules for that altogether. So there are multiple ways, right? One is the integration, which we already have with all the major players that we're talking about, and we create new integrations wherever required with the business partners that you may have, right? First is that we already have existing integrations. We are talking about 180 plus integrations already exist. The second aspect that I'm talking about is we already have ready-made platforms or ready-made portals as well. When we are talking about your business partners, they can create orders using those business portals as well. Talking about a lot of applications. So we also have B2C and C2C applications as well. Using the mobile applications, for example, the orders can be created, so on and so forth. We have the respective integrations. Then talking about the non-confidentiality agreements, of course, we have those as well. And we are completely compliant in terms of the security agreements, right? So we have all the respective security compliance aligned with us. So yes, we do ensure that, and that is the most important priority for us.
Great. Hope this answers, Rohit. The next question is again from Rohit Ranjan. So, Rishabh, he's asking that would Shipsy be able to customize the software based on any requirement from the manufacturer? He's basically asking that is it customizable based on the seller's or manufacturer's requirement?
Okay, so the answer is yes. First of all, we try to understand. So how we do it is we try to understand your business requirement. We try to understand the manufacturer's business requirement, right? And then we try to what we try to do is we have a solution, and the solution is completely modular. First of all, right? Different modules can be utilized wherever required. And then when we are talking about customizations over those particular modules, customizations can be done. We completely understand your scope. What is the requirement that you have, and we align with you, and we sit with you, and we create a proper customization with regards to the requirements that you may have, right? And that is the one of the key funda that we follow, right? We build with a lot of customers, right? And that helps us to really stay in the game and to be the best that we are. So yes, we do the customizations wherever required.
Great. So any more questions, you can please type it down on the Q&A session. We have a couple of more minutes in this masterclass, so we can accommodate them. Okay. Okay. So the thing is, no. Okay. Great, Rohit. I'm glad we were able to answer your questions. So if there are no more questions, we can wrap it up. So I think that's all for our masterclass today. We sincerely thank you for being such a patient and lovely audience. And your active participation and your questions were truly engaging. So before we finish, please take a moment to rate your experience as well of this masterclass so that we can also improve our further sessions, further masterclasses. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate today's session? 1 being the poor and 5 being excellent. Okay. So folks, we would be it'll be great if we can also interact with you offline. If there are any queries on route optimization solution, its capabilities, or how Shipsy can help your specific operation, your specific challenge, we can definitely connect. So please feel free to email us, drop us an email. We'll also send us this session recording to you as well for you to have a relook at it. And that's I think that's great from my end. And have a wonderful evening. And thanks
Thank you,
again.
everyone.